Family, if you haven't by now really gotten it, we as Afarakanu, people of African descent, have the capacity to interface with all of nature, with all of creation, literally. You know, that movie Avatar is literally showing our connection to the world. We have the capacity to communicate with the animals. We have the capacity to communicate with the waters, with the fire, with the wind, with the spirit forces in creation that govern all of creation. That's what the Abosom, the Orisha, the Vodou, that's who they are, conscious beings. So when we go through a ritual initiation, it's grounded in the knowledge of those beings. How did we learn to talk? How did we learn to write? How did we learn about the world in which we exist? They taught us. They would possess us and they would speak to us and through us to the community. So us being in our right minds means that we are able to communicate with all of life. And there's an order to that. There's an order to that. Just like I think I may have said in a previous video, you know, we have eyes to see, but we don't go looking at every single thing, right? We have ears to hear. Those are the primary functions of our eyes and our ears, to see and to hear. They have other functions as well. So our ear also functions as a place for balance, for the balance of our body, right? Within our inner ear, there's that fluid that allows us to maintain balance, so we don't fall over every time we get up or we walk or run. Our eyes were able to project and take in electromagnetic energy. So our eyes serve more functions than just to see. And that's why when someone is, you know how you can feel somebody staring at you? You just turn. You do that automatically, right? As many times as it's happened to us, how many times have we ever had the thought that someone is looking at me, let me turn my head? It's just natural because we're feeling a change in the pressure within our energetic field. There's a shift and we detect those shifts. So those of you who have experienced narcissism, what you're really dealing with is you're dealing with illegal possession, interference by wayward spirits. That's what you're dealing with. When you see him or her change, like their personality shifts, and you know what that is if you've been through that. You see it when people are drunk. And I don't know too much about people being high, but I know when they're drunk, you definitely can see oftentimes a clear shift. A gentle person can become very aggressive and violent, like a complete personality change. Polar, right? They're talking about two spirits. See, we have the capacity to manage and to contain our own energy. It's our energy, we can control it. But when there's pressure put on us by other spirits, wayward spirits, then that's when the anger goes from 0 to 1,000. The rage, the grief, right? The sadness, the loneliness, there's an overshadowing because there's some boundaries that aren't shored up. There's a breach and they come in there and they just slip in real easy. They'll slip in and they'll slip out. They'll slip in and cause enough wahala, enough chaos and confusion. And then when the other person, whoever you're dealing with, has had enough and they snap those things back up and leave you to deal with the mess. And so we all, whether we recognize it or not, have had the experience of being overshadowed because we don't live in a community that is operating in accordance with divine order. It leaves us vulnerable. And this is why we have murder and rape and these sort of horrific types of things that happen to people. These are literally wayward spirits that are illegally possessing someone, taking over their body and using it for their own nefarious purposes. Whether they were sent by someone else doing their little witchcraft, or they just saw an opportunity, an open vessel, and they just jumped in and used that individual. So if you have experienced child abuse, again, narcissism, these type of things, you're actually dealing with evil spirits, with wayward spirits. That's what we're dealing with. So if I think at the beginning of this whole series, I said we need to know the game that is being played. You need to know the arena that you're on. You can't solve a problem. If you think the problem that you're solving is right here in this time and space, and you don't take into consideration that you are a spirit inhabiting a body, and you're influenced by spirits in bodies and spirits that are disembodied or don't have bodies, if you're just dealing with the ones that you can see and touch and feel, that you've already lost the game. Because you're looking through eyes that don't see. You're listening through ears that don't hear. And so it will always have us bumping into walls, trying to solve things at this level when they're being controlled and manipulated from a level beyond this time and space. And so again, that's why it's so important for us to embrace ourselves, to embrace our culture, to find out who we are and where do we come from and how do we worship? How do we commune with the divine? That is our source of protection. I can't emphasize that. I can't emphasize that enough. I can remember one story real quick. I can remember my first marriage, and it was very abusive. I think I talked about when I got married, because that's when my grandmother said she would always watch over me. But I remember this day, my husband at the time, he was just drinking all day. We weren't arguing or anything. It was Mother's Day, as a matter of fact, I think. And his mom had my baby girl, and she was offended because we didn't call to say, Happy Mother's Day, and she had the baby. But what she didn't know, and she found out later, was that we were supposed to meet up with another couple. And my husband at the time was so drunk that he literally almost just couldn't walk or function, see or anything. And so we had to call them and tell them, okay, we're not going to be able to do this because he's been drinking too much. He went out because our phone was off at the time, and he went out to make a call. When he came back, I don't know why I put the lock on the door, but when he came back, he went to open the door and the chain was on it, and I went immediately to take it off. And then I'm walking back to my bedroom, and I hear all of this noise behind me, and I turn around, and it's like, whoa, right in my eye. And I'm so stunned. I'm like, what are you doing? No words, no nothing. And he's 6'1". He jumps on top of I'm almost at the bedroom, and I get in there, and he's right up on me, and I kind of like fall back on the bed, and he jumps up on the bed. He literally jumps up on the bed and standing over me and tells me something about, I will smash your face into the concrete or something. And I'm so scared. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, he's trying to kill me. I'm like, help, help, call the police. We're in a basement for, I think we're in a basement apartment. So nobody could hear me. And we had a full length mirror in the bedroom, but he's standing over me. I'm looking in his eyes and it's two pools of darkness. And without even thinking or anything, I just moved. I literally put my hand back there behind me, stretch, and I feel a glass. I didn't even, it was like automatic. I pick up a glass and I throw it. And now I can't see anything. I'm laying on the bed. I didn't even know the glass was there. I literally am just moving on automatic. I throw it, it shatters the glass. And when it shatters the glass, whatever was on him, it shatters that too. Because he's looking down at me and he just starts to whimper and like this. And I just see him, I literally just see him back up, back off, and then go onto the couch and crawl up like a little baby and cry. He had never hit me before. But I had an uncle that told me, don't you ever let any man put his hands on you. And if he does, you leave him and don't you dare look back. Don't you go back because he will do it again. And so right then I knew it was over. I knew it was over. But I'm talking about the overshadowing. I could look in his eyes and it was two pools of darkness. He wasn't there because even when I was calling, like, what are you doing? There was no response. I didn't know what I was looking at because I didn't know what these wayward spirits was. None of that. I grew up with narcissism, but it was shaded from me. So I never saw anything like that. And I literally did not know what I was looking at. I know there's some of y'all that know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll continue with story time in the next video.